Riley, after 8 years, Manuel Lanzini is leaving West Ham. It's really sad, actually, isn't it, to say goodbye to him, because he's one of those players. He's one of the Upton Park era players. We haven't got many left now. I think we've got Creswell and Bonner.
And Antonio as well.
And Antonio. So we've got 3 left, I think. I can't think of any more.
No, it's just them 3, yeah.
It is them 3. So it's 1 gone and we're running out now. So it's quite sad because it's almost like Upton Park starting slipping away even further. But it's obviously not talking about that. We're talking about Lanzini, mate. What a servant for West Ham. What an amazing player. Really, really proud to have seen him play the West Ham shirt for as long as he did. 226 appearances, 32 goals. Some of them we'll talk about in a bit. Some of them so memorable and probably will never be forgotten. And to be honest about it, one thing I wanted to mention was when he first came to the club, it was his first season, and he had that, and that was the season where the Pyatt season, was it the farewell bowl-in? I actually felt really sorry for Lanzini then, because it was almost like had it not been for Pyatt's brilliance, he probably would have got Player of the Year, but it just didn't really quite happen because he was overshadowed by someone that was just so special. But yeah, what are your thoughts, mate, first on Mr. Lanzini's departure?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. He didn't play a lot of last year. He probably wants sort of like I think you get to the last few years of your career and you want to sort of get like a memorable year, go back to Argentina with your family. Like, I think it'd be brilliant if he goes back to like River Plate, for example. Maybe I'm a bit different, but the sort of Saudi leagues don't really entice me that much. Obviously, you might be looking for your last like little paycheck at which I don't disagree with that. I get where you're coming from with that. But I didn't think he had much scope to going into the first team. He barely played last year. I'm glad he got... So there was one point in his career where he was like a complete fringe player. And David Moyes came in and he said, look, I really like Lanzini. I actually want to... He's one of my favourite players at West Ham. I want to bring him back into the first team. And he's sort of... When he is sort of second coming at West Ham, I think was really, really good. He's dropped into midfield. He became one of our best midfield players. And for me, I just think he's one of them feel-good players, isn't he? And I also feel there's an element of like a streets won't forget player. I think Palace will be, over the moon that he's leaving West Ham because he just loves scoring again. He only really scores bangers for me. He's got so many memorable goals. Sometimes you do these videos and you think to yourself, "Oh, I've got to go for a YouTube sort of highlights reel and pick them out." But there's like 7 or 8 running through my head. He scored so many big goals for West Ham.
Yeah,
and he was a terrific servant. He never moaned about his contract, never moaned about being on the bench. He definitely earned his role at the club. But, I mean, just imagine where he might be in his career at the moment if he didn't have that injury for Argentina. Yeah. I mean, at the time as well, to be in that Argentina squad was amazing. 2016, it was only like 2 years prior they'd won the bloody World Cup. So, it's not the World Cup, sorry, but they were not a World Cup semi-final. So, it was an amazing Argentina squad. He was playing with the likes of Lionel Messi, who, actually was someone who was going to take him under his wing. So, I mean, imagine what player we would have had on our hands if he had come back from that Argentina squad and had a brilliant campaign. And it wasn't even like it was the end of it. It was in training. It was at the start of it. And it was no player really comes back the same after that. So to be able to come back and still fight for your place in the West Ham squad, you've got to give your hat off to him. But, for me, what might have been with Emmanuel Lanzini is quite a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was actually 2018 that it happened. I think it's 2018 World Cup, but I think if I'm rightly, but if you remember, yeah, you're right. At that time, because if it was 2018, he'd been at the club 3 years, and I think at that point he was our main player. He was so instrumental in everything we did. He was so creative. He scored goals. He was really instrumental. So much so, in fact, that summer. When he got the injury, when he went away with Argentina to head of the World Cup, he was touted as being... I think we were going to lose him, to be honest, Riley. I think he was going to go to Liverpool.
Yeah, it looked like it.
He was going to replace Coutinho, who had then gone to Barcelona from Liverpool. So I think that actually we probably wouldn't have kept him anyway, which would have been really sad. But like you say, for him... Personally, he was on the cusp of going to a title challenging side, Champions League side, and he was about to set foot and play alongside Lionel Messi at a World Cup. So that injury was horrendous. And I remember at the time, I think it was the worst. One of the specialists says the worst they'd ever seen. It actually ruptured his Achilles terribly, and it was like unlikely he was going to play again. I think I even remember reading, I don't know whether that was true or not, that he could have, if it had been bad, it could have been amputated. It was that bad. It was like his knee was such in bad state that he had to sort it out. So the fact he recovered from it was well enough, but I think mentally and physically, he never really recovered from it. I think we kind of got an 80% Lanzini after that. I think he lost 20% of his game. He lost his that. I think you lose that burst. That, I don't know what it is. That spring, that burst of pace. You just seem to just lose that. And I think he, because if you remember beforehand, he used to be able to glide around players quite quickly and bounce off players. He kind of lost that a little bit in his game. He had to change and become a little bit more defensive and play, you know, a bit more distribute the ball a bit more than rather than attack players and run at them. But still, I'd never take anything away from him, mate. Brilliant player, and as I say, emotional really to see him go, but definitely the right time. I mean, like you said, he didn't play a lot in the last season, but like you said, another perfect thing you did bring up, which I didn't really think of, is how he's handled that. You know, he never moaned, he's never stropped around, he's never been too big for his boots and demanded to leave. I think he accepted the fact he was getting older. I think he accepted the fact that things had changed and he probably wasn't at the level he was at. And he was happy to be there in that role. And I'm all the best for him, for me. We've got to talk about these goals then, mate, these moments in his career at West Ham, because like you said, it wasn't hard to pick. I mean, I could have listed quite a few out. I picked 4. I'll go from descending order. So my fourth one for me was the Chelsea away goal. I think it was in his first season when he hit it in the top corner. Just a beautiful goal. I remember that thing, and I think, yeah, that was a moment when you realised we've got a really good player around here. Like, he's the top draw footballer. Yeah, I really rated him. Third for me was the Palace volley. Yeah, just amazing, wasn't it? Like, what a goal that was, Riley. What do you remember of that one?
Yeah, I mean, the way he was able to kind of like juggle it in the air and then put it past. I mean, unless you play football, it's such a hard skill to understand the meaning of. Like, it looked kind of simple when you look at it like that, but to be on the run and sort of pluck it out the air 2 or 3 times and then volley it past as well. I mean, it's crazy to me that goal is not even like that far up there when you think about the goals that he scored. Obviously, we all know what number one's going to be, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But to score that kind of goal, I mean, it takes an immense amount of skill.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, amazing. Yeah, and you're right. It was one of those that, because it's just so, it was the way he just so 2-footed and just so, you know, incredible technique to do it. I really loved watching that goal. Yeah, obviously we're going to talk about the main moment of goal for him and something that we still as fans all watch, and he never tired of watching it. I mean, it's been years and I still just watch it all day, every day. But the first one before that was the other Tottenham goal we scored, which is the one at home. We beat them 1-0 at London Stadium. And it wasn't a special goal in terms of, you know, because I think it was like it fell to him and he just smashed it past Lloris. But it was a big goal, that was. We beat Tottenham 1-0, and that was such a big, vital 3 points, because at that time, we just moved to London Stadium. We weren't doing very well. We were struggling to get used to it. There was a lot of fan unrest with everything going on. And to get Tottenham at our gaff, while they were in the top 4, whatever they were at the time, and fighting for honours, and we were, you know, the opposite end, really struggling. That was a big, big goal from Lanzini, and I remember the way he celebrated it, what it meant to him, and I always remember that. And I was there going crazy, because that was a big moment for West Ham. That was kind of pivotal, that part of the season. So I'll always remember that. And obviously, mate, the main goal. I'll let you talk about this one. Go on, because I'll give you the privilege to talk about this goal, because I can't remember it that well.
Mate, yeah, I haven't seen it like reposted on Twitter every like 2 minutes, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, crazy game. I mean, it just sort of encapsulated his fucking lockdown football. The worst part for me was not a fan was there to see it. I mean, imagine the scenes in that West Ham end, you know, away at Tottenham, 3-0 down. Obviously, we managed to scrape it back to 3-2. And I was actually quite annoyed at 3-2. I was like, you know, you're doing this to me. The
first goal, wasn't it? Sorry, mate, but didn't our first goal on the comeback come in like was it 78th minute or something? Or something?
I think it was more like 82. It was something ridiculous like that. It was. I think there was
while you're talking, I'm going to look it up. Go on, you carry on.
There was like a couple of minutes in between it. Obviously, you know, ball comes in from Creswell. Balbuena gets on the end of it, scores. You think, okay, well, you know, why couldn't we have done that earlier in the game? Then, Yarmolenko does this cute little turn, puts it through to Soufal. Sanchez puts it in his own net, and you're like, right, I've basically been watching this game for about 70 minutes now, not giving a toss. We know what the result's going to be. And now you've made the last 6 minutes actually like me caring about it, which I was annoyed about. And I remember being in my uni accommodation at the time, and when the ball came out to Lanzini, I thought, what a shit ball in. We've done it again. I'm pretty sure I was literally mid complaining, and then Lanzini fired it in, and I didn't even know what to do myself. I think I like threw a chair across the room. I was just screaming. I honestly didn't know what to do because, I mean, not just the triumph of what you've just done, which is, Tottenham were a good side at the time, but I would say there are arch nemesis, there are arch rivals. To deprive them of them 2 points was more sweet to me than a point for us. And obviously the manner of the goal, I mean, it was an unreal goal. And you've got David Moyes jumping up and down the pitch, running up and down. The commentary was amazing. And it was just such an amazing goal. And I'm so glad it went to him as well, because that goal will circulate West Ham social media and West Ham fans' heads forever. There'll never be a time in your life where you can't perfectly sit there and describe that goal. I've just described all three because it just etches in your memory. So it's nice that he's got one of them goals that, like the Di Canio goal, you'll always remember that Di Canio goal.
Yes.
Andy Carroll goal, you'll always remember that Andy Carroll goal when you talk about great goals. So for me, it's amazing that he's no matter what mark he's left on that club, that goal will always just, cement him in West Ham folklore.
Absolutely, absolutely, mate. It's one of that. It was one of those moments to be cherished, and still do. I mean, it hasn't got old. It won't get old. It's, as you say, it's something you can always happily look back on and watch. And I'll always be grateful for that memory from him. And you were right, mate. 82 minutes. Balbuena scored in the 82nd. Sanchez own goal in the 85th, and Lanzini 90+4. So literally pretty much the last kick of the game. It was amazing, and what a moment, and it will never be forgotten. I'm always grateful for it. About his quick final thoughts wrapping up, mate. His future, first of all, talking about, I think he's going to go South America from what I'm reading. I think that's Argentina's clubs are after him. I think River Plate are in for him. You've got Brazilian clubs are in for him. That's where I'm guessing he's going to end up. I think he wants to go closer to home, which fair play to him. He more than deserves that. And I hope he does well. I'd love to see him go and have a couple more years and flourish somewhere else and for his final couple of years of football. So that'd be great. But one big talking point, Riley, which we do need to bring up, is the number 10 shirt is now up for grabs. It's got to be going one way, isn't it? It's got to be.
Well, I'd actually considered this as part of the video. We're talking about it, obviously, before we started recorded. And I actually thought it's really exciting. I know it sounds stupid. It's such a silly thing, a shirt number, but it does make a big difference, especially to the players as well. And one player we know who loves to wear the number 10 shirt is Lucas Paqueta. Now, I actually think he looks incredible with a number 11 shirt. I think that suits him perfectly. I wouldn't want to see him switch from it.
Oh, really? You don't want to see it?
No, I really like him in the number 11 shirt. I think it just sort of suits him. If he wants to go to the number 10, I'm sort of thinking to myself, who would I go for number 11? So I'm thinking in my head, right, who would I go for number 10 if he keeps 11? And who would I go for 11 if he keeps 10? And for me, like if we brought in Harvey Barnes, he'd be a perfect 10 or 11. Either shirt for him. I think Harvey Barnes on a number 10 or Harvey Barnes on a number 11, I think would just look so sexy in that kit. But obviously, so if we want to give Lucas Paqueta, like we say, we want to give him the next big. We want to give him everything he wants at the club, don't we? I think he's our focal point now that Rice is potentially leaving. So we chuck him the number 10 shirt. We free up the number 11 shirt. Sign Harvey Barnes. He's number 11. Bish, bash, bosh. That's how I see it in my head.
Happy days, mate. Happy days. Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I think it'll go Paqueta. He wears it for Brazil. He wears it for... he doesn't wear it for Brazil, does he? Brazil? I think he wears 11 Brazil, because isn't Neymar 10? I'm assuming. Don't know. But I definitely wore it for Leon and whatnot. So I'm not sure actually on the Brazilian one. But I imagine Paqueta will want that shirt. I can only imagine, because 10's a big privilege, a big number for the club. And also bearing in mind we want to keep Paqueta. So I'm not saying that makes a big difference, change the shirt number. But it just, I don't know. Again, it sends a nice message to the fans that he wants to stay. He's happy. He was getting a big, a bit of a promotion number wise. So yeah, that's interesting. And obviously final thoughts, Lanzini, mate, brilliant player. Really sad that his time's come to an end, because it's always a bit emotional, but I totally get it. And nothing but fond memories. And it's something we'll always cherish, mate, Lanzini. Always. Our jewel of East London.
Our jewel of East London. I mean, I'm also glad he's not going to like a Premier League side or anything like that, because it'd be kind of annoying to see him in another shirt. But yeah, it's just I feel like it's the right time from him. And like the most important thing for me is, again, we've lost another member, like you say, of the Upton Park crew. That last season, which I think for me is more memorable than these European nights or anything like that. That is always a season for me that will be etched into West Ham history. We've lost a duel, but can we find another one?
Well, this is it, mate, isn't it? That's the next thing. Who comes in to replace that role? But I think the club, I think we've got players there that can handle it. As you say, Lanzini wasn't a real first team player really towards the end, so I don't think it's going to be anything too difficult to handle. But yeah, they'll always still. But that aside, as you say, the Upton Park connection. But it's just, just wish him all the best. I really hope wherever he goes, he does well and enjoys his final couple of years playing football, because he more than deserves it.